The sky over Connecticut was still dark when the black SUV rolled quietly into the driveway of the Grant family's small two-story home. Frost clung to the windshield, the kind that forms when the night has been too long, too cold, and too full of secrets. Evan Walker stepped out, adjusting his wrinkled shirt, the faint trace of unfamiliar perfume clinging to his collar. He checked his reflection in the car window, swallowed hard, and rehearsed the same lie he had used a dozen times. Late meeting, deadlines, nothing to worry about. Inside the house, every light was off, except the dim one above the stove. The scent of last night's macaroni still lingered in the air. Evan removed his shoes and slipped into the hallway. Convinced everyone was asleep, he needed silence. He needed the world to stay still long enough for his guilt to fade. But halfway through the living room, he stopped. A small glow flickered from the staircase. At first, he thought it was a nightlight, but then he saw him, Noah. Their 9-year-old son sat curled on the third step, clutching his iPad like a shield, wearing his dinosaur pajamas. His eyes were puffy, as if he had been awake for hours. "Dad," Noah whispered, voice trembling. "Why are you home in the morning?" Evan forced a smile, the kind that stretched too far and reached nowhere near his eyes. "Buddy, Daddy had to help someone at work. Big problem, grown-up stuff." But Noah didn't blink, didn't move. Just stared, as if memorizing every detail, the wrinkled clothes, the perfume, the hesitation. "I waited for you," Noah murmured. "I thought maybe something bad happened." His voice cracked on the last word, and Evan's chest tightened. He stepped forward, but Noah pulled back slightly, clutching his tablet tighter. Upstairs, the floor creaked lightly, Olivia turning in her sleep, unaware of the dawn betrayal unfolding below. Evan swallowed again. "Noah, go back to bed. Everything's fine." But the boy didn't answer. Instead, he slowly stood up and walked upstairs without another word. He didn't cry. He didn't accuse. He just walked away quietly. And that quietness would later grow into something Evan never expected. A story, a truth, a weapon. And in less than a week, the entire town would hear Noah read it aloud. Olivia Grant had always been the kind of woman people described as steady, not flashy, not loud, not someone who demanded attention when she walked into a room. She carried herself with a gentle patience, like someone who learned early in life that speaking softly often kept the peace better than raising a voice. At 35, she worked as an administrative assistant at Ridgewood Elementary, a quiet backbone of the school who remembered every parent's name, every student's allergy, every teacher's late request for copies. Her life moved in predictable rhythms. Morning coffee in a faded blue mug, a quick drive in her old Toyota Corolla, and a neatly packed lunch she always forgot to eat. She never complained. She never asked for more. She believed stability was enough. Even when it was built on a foundation she refused to look at too closely. In the early years of her marriage, Evan would tell her she was the calm to his storms. But lately, it felt more like he was the storm, and she was just trying not to drown. He had grown sharper, impatient, always glued to his phone, answering texts at dinner, and disappearing for client emergencies that seemed to happen at the most convenient moments. Still, Olivia convinced herself marriages went through phases. People got stressed, jobs changed them. And she had always been good at waiting for people to come back to her. That morning, after Evan slipped into the house like a thief of his own making, Olivia lay upstairs half awake, sensing movement but too exhausted to question it. She had been grading permission slips for a school field trip until nearly midnight. When she finally rose to prepare breakfast, she noticed small details. Evan's shoes weren't where he normally left them, the faint scent of something floral in the hallway, the distant sound of Noah's door closing. But she didn't ask. She didn't want to start the day with tension, so she moved quietly through the kitchen, heating water, slicing fruit, placing 2 waffles in the toaster for Noah, the way he liked them, crispy edges, soft middle. Her life was a series of small acts of care no one noticed, but she still did them because she believed that doing good kept a home together. At school, her coworkers adored her. Teachers often dropped personal worries on her desk, divorces, sick parents, financial troubles, and Olivia always listened with full attention. It was a gift she never realized she had, making others feel heard. Yet, ironically, she rarely felt heard herself. Even Evan, when she tried to tell him she felt disconnected, would say, "Liv, you worry too much. Everything is fine. We're fine." She had learned to swallow her doubts, convincing herself that quiet women didn't get to demand too much from life. But beneath her calm exterior, Olivia carried a deep, aching fear, an unspoken truth she never said out loud, that she was not enough for her husband. Not interesting enough, not confident enough, not young enough. And that fear kept her silent on nights when Evan came home too late or didn't come home at all. What she didn't know was that everything, her silence, her patience, her years of carrying burdens alone, was about to rupture. Noah's small, trembling voice on the stairs earlier that morning would echo louder than she could ever imagine. It would reach her, then their home, then their entire community. But for now, as she poured Noah's milk and set his plate at the table, Olivia still believed she was living inside a temporary cloud that would pass. She didn't yet know that her son had already begun riding the storm that would change everything. And she had no idea that the truth would come for her sooner than she was ready for. The world around the Grant family looked peaceful from the outside, almost picturesque, the kind of suburb people moved to when they wanted quiet streets, good schools, and a sense of safety. Ridgewood, Connecticut wasn't wealthy enough to feel untouchable, yet it had the charm of tree-lined sidewalks, kids riding scooters after school, and front porches decorated with seasonal wreaths. If someone drove past the Grant home, a modest pale gray house with green shutters, they'd assume everything inside was as steady as the neighborhood itself. But the truth lived in the details. Every morning, a thin fog settled over the yard, drifting around the bare maple trees like a warning the sunlight hadn't burned away yet. Inside, the house carried two different energies: the warmth created by Olivia's gentle rituals, and the coldness that slipped in whenever Evan walked through the door. The kitchen, once the center of family life, had slowly become a quiet place where Olivia moved alone, preparing meals, while Evan claimed he was too busy to sit down, grabbing coffee on the go, and Noah often eating silently, sensing the shift without knowing how to name it. The living room was a mixture of old and new: Olivia's thrifted decor, family photos from happier years, and Evan's expensive gadgets scattered on the coffee table. His MacBook, always half open, his AirPods left beside the couch, his suit jacket thrown over a chair. He lived in that room like someone passing through, never fully present, always halfway somewhere else, usually Manhattan. Manhattan itself played a quiet but powerful role in their story. The city skyline, visible from the train station platform, felt like another world, bright, demanding, full of temptation. Evan commuted daily to a sleek glass office building near Bryant Park. He often bragged about the view from the 22nd floor, the polished conference rooms, the city lights at night. It was the perfect place for a man to reinvent himself, and the perfect place for lies to grow unnoticed. Meanwhile, Ridgewood Elementary, the school where Olivia worked, was a sanctuary of innocence. Colorful bulletin boards lined the hallways, student drawings covered the walls, and the faint smell of glue sticks mixed with cafeteria pizza lingered everywhere. Olivia belonged there. She felt safe among children's laughter and the steady rhythm of school bells. But even there, she carried the heaviness she hid at home. Some teachers noticed her smiles didn't reach her eyes anymore, but no one asked. No one wanted to intrude. The last major setting, though, was the Grant home at night. That was when the atmosphere changed most dramatically. After sunset, shadows gathered in corners, the ticking clock grew louder. And every time Evan sent a text saying he'd be late, Olivia felt the house sink deeper into a hollow silence. On nights he didn't come home until dawn, the house felt abandoned, like it was holding its breath. What made the setting so haunting was how normal everything looked. A well-organized pantry, a fridge covered in Noah's drawings, a laundry basket half-folded, a family portrait still hanging straight on the hallway wall. Everything suggested stability, except the people living in it. This contrast between peaceful surroundings and emotional turmoil set the stage for what was coming. Because Ridgewood wasn't just a backdrop, it was a pressure cooker of quiet expectations. People here noticed when a husband wasn't around. People whispered when a child looked tired. And when Noah eventually shared his story with the world, Ridgewood would become the place where secrets didn't stay buried. And soon, this quiet town would witness a storm no one saw coming. To understand the storm that was about to tear Olivia's world apart, you have to understand Evan Walker, not just the husband who came home at dawn, but the man he had been becoming long before Olivia noticed the cracks. Evan wasn't a monster by nature. That was the problem. Monsters are easy to recognize. Evan was charming, articulate, and effortlessly likable. The kind of man who could shake hands with a stranger and have them laughing 5 minutes later. People loved him. People trusted him. And Evan knew how to use that. At 38, he worked in a Manhattan PR firm that lived off image, persuasion, and bending truths until they sounded heroic. Evan excelled there. He had the smile, the polish, the charisma. He knew exactly how much to reveal and how much to hide. In a world driven by attention, Evan was a man who craved validation the way some people crave air. Every compliment, every lingering look from a coworker, every "Evan, you saved the day again," fed something inside him Olivia could never reach because the hunger had nothing to do with marriage. But the real catalyst behind his betrayal was Sienna Blake, the kind of woman people warned you about but were too mesmerized to avoid. At 29, she was a PR strategist whose beauty felt manufactured for Manhattan nightlife. Sleek ponytail, burgundy lips, heels that clicked like punctuation marks. Sienna wasn't evil, she was ambitious. She wanted money, connections, and a shortcut to luxury. And she saw Evan not just as a man, but as a stepping stone. Evan fell for her attention. For the way she laughed at his jokes Olivia had heard for years, for the way she made him feel like the most important man in any room. But what Evan never understood was that Sienna played a different game. Where Olivia loved with devotion, Sienna loved with strategy. She read people like puzzles and took advantage of their cracks. Evan's biggest crack was simple. He wanted to feel exceptional. And Sienna made him feel exceptional until she wanted something more. She began asking questions, disguised as affection. Do you really have access to the firm's expense accounts? Is your house in both names or just yours? Why does a man like you settle for a quiet town life? Slowly, she nudged him toward secret spending, pricey hotel suites, dinners that didn't appear on bank statements, and Evan, blinded by attention, didn't see the trap tightening around him. He believed Sienna cared. He believed she was different. In reality, she had done this before with other men, other wallets. But Evan wasn't just a victim. He was a willing participant. The problem with Evan wasn't infidelity, it was cowardice. He wanted the thrill without the consequences. He wanted to betray Olivia, but still come home to a warm house, a folded laundry basket, a child who adored him. He wasn't cruel in obvious ways. He was cruel in quiet ways. The lies, the dismissals, the manipulations that ate away at Olivia's confidence. Liv, you overthink everything. Liv, you're imagining it. Liv, you're too sensitive. These weren't sentences. They were slow poison. Evan loved being admired more than he loved being honest. And Sienna? She loved the chase more than she loved Evan. Together, they created the perfect storm, one built from deception, selfishness, and the belief that Olivia would never fight back. What neither of them knew was that the smallest voice in the house, Noah, would be the one to expose them both. The moment everything began to unravel didn't happen in the quiet of the Grant home. It happened in public, under bright hallway lights, in front of people who weren't supposed to know anything. The first spark came during Ridgewood Elementary's Tuesday morning assembly. Olivia, exhausted from a night of Evan's vague explanations and Noah's withdrawn silence, had gone to work trying to keep her face calm. She didn't know the storm was already waiting for her. The principal approached her with a sympathetic smile. "Olivia, can I see you for a moment? It's about Noah." Her stomach tightened. "Is he okay?" The principal hesitated, then led her into the small media room. A group of teachers stood around a laptop, whispering. When they saw Olivia, the room fell quiet. Mrs. Turner, Noah's homeroom teacher, clicked play on a video taken from the school's internal security system, a hallway camera. Olivia watched the screen, confused at first. The footage showed Noah the previous afternoon, sitting cross-legged outside the library, tapping on his school-issued iPad. Kids passed him, some laughing, some ignoring him. Then a few students gathered behind him, peeking at his screen. Their faces shifted from curiosity to shock. "What is he writing?" Olivia whispered. Mrs. Turner swallowed. "It's his assignment for the writing prompt, the one titled, 'Write About Something True.'" The camera footage had no audio, but a second file did. A screen recording from one of the kids who had secretly recorded Noah reading his draft aloud to himself. When the audio played, Olivia's world cracked. My dad came home in the morning when he said it was still night. His shirt smelled like someone else's perfume. I waited hours for him because I was scared something bad happened. But when he walked in, he lied. He smiled like it didn't hurt me. Grown-ups say lying is bad, but Dad lies when he thinks it keeps his secret safe. The teachers shifted uncomfortably, pretending not to stare at Olivia's face, which had turned pale. Her breath shook. "Where did the recording come from?" she asked quietly. "Some kids shared it in a group chat, and then it spread." The principal admitted, "We're handling it, but it's out there. Out there." 2 words that hit like a punch. That meant parents might have seen it, staff, neighbors, anyone. And the worst part, the part that made Olivia grip the edge of the desk, was that Noah hadn't exaggerated. He hadn't lied. Everything he wrote came from truth, even though he was too young to understand its weight. Before she could process it, another shock hit. Mrs. Turner cleared her throat gently. "There's something else. Noah has been selected to read his piece at the Young Voices Showcase next week." Olivia's heart stopped. "Read this? In front of the entire district?" "He doesn't have to," the principal said quickly, "but he wants to. He said, it's the truest thing he's ever written." Olivia pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears pricked her eyes, but she forced them back. The room blurred. And then, like a cruel twist written by fate, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. A single image. Evan in a hotel lobby, shirt untucked, Sienna Blake's hand on his chest. The timestamp. Yesterday. The same day Noah wrote his story. Olivia's hand trembled so violently she almost dropped her phone. Around her, the teachers looked away, giving her privacy she couldn't feel. Her marriage wasn't just cracked. It had already shattered. And now the whole town was about to see the pieces. Olivia didn't remember how she got from the media room back to her office. One moment she was staring at the photo of Evan and Sienna in that hotel lobby, and the next she was sitting at her desk, hands trembling, breath shallow, heart pounding like it was trying to break free from her chest. The fluorescent lights above her flickered faintly, and every sound in the office, from the distant ringing of phones to the chatter of teachers, felt painfully loud. She tried to answer emails, tried to focus on attendance sheets and field trip forms, but her mind kept replaying Noah's voice from the recording. "My dad came home in the morning. His shirt smelled like someone else's perfume. He lied. He lied. He lied." By noon, Olivia could barely breathe. She slipped outside, claiming she needed a quick errand, but really, she was fleeing the building before she shattered in front of her coworkers. The cold air hit her like a slap, but instead of grounding her, it only made the trembling worse. She sat in the driver's seat of her old Toyota Corolla, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles whitened. Tears finally broke free, silent at first, then uncontrollable, rushing out like every moment she had swallowed, dismissed, or pretended wasn't happening. Her chest heaved. She felt like she was drowning. She thought about Noah. How long had he been carrying this alone? How many nights had he waited, watching the clock, hoping his father would come home? The guilt cut deeper than any betrayal. Then she thought about Evan, not the man he was now, but the man he had once been. The man who held her hand in their tiny first apartment. The man who used to rush home with takeout because he knew she loved the dumplings from Maple and Pine. The man who promised to always tell her the truth because his own father never did. Where had he gone? How long had she been loving a ghost of the man she married? Olivia pressed her forehead against the steering wheel and sobbed until her vision blurred. Cars passed by, people walked their dogs. The normal world kept moving, but her world had collapsed. The worst part wasn't the cheating. It was the humiliation. The entire school had heard Noah's story. The teachers, the students, the parents, and soon, because of that photo, everyone would know she had been lied to for months. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. This one from Sarah, her younger sister. "Liv, are you okay? Someone just told me there's a video going around about Noah. Call me." Olivia dropped the phone onto the passenger seat. She couldn't speak. She couldn't explain. Not yet. Her hands shook as she wiped her cheeks, smearing mascara across her skin. She stared at herself in the rearview mirror, a woman who looked 10 years older than she had that morning. Broken. Hollow. She whispered, "How am I supposed to face Noah? How do I protect him from this?" But no answer came. Only more silence. Finally, she turned the key and drove not home. Not back to school, but to the one place she hoped she could fall apart without judgment. The small parking lot behind Ridgewood Park, where no one went during school hours. She parked in the corner and cried again, letting the pain spill out until her body felt empty. Yet deep beneath the collapse, something else began to form, not strength, not yet, but the smallest spark of resolve. Because pain this deep doesn't stay silent forever. And soon, Olivia's grief would turn into something far more dangerous: clarity. Olivia stayed in the car until her breathing steadied enough for her to finally drive home. She walked into the house quietly, hoping for a moment of stillness, but the universe had other plans. The second she stepped inside, Evan's voice echoed from the kitchen, too cheerful, too casual, too fake. "Liv, hey. I was going to call you. Busy morning?" She froze. The sight of him standing at the counter, peeling an orange like nothing was wrong, made something crack inside her. There he was, the man who came home at dawn smelling like a stranger, acting as if he hadn't devastated their son. She didn't speak, she didn't have to. She simply set her phone on the counter, screen up, displaying the photo from the hotel lobby. Evan's hands stiffened. The orange fell to the floor. "Liv," he whispered, "it's not what it looks like." "Oaks." Olivia laughed, soft, broken, disbelieving. "Which part? The perfume? The late nights? Or you with your hand on Sienna Blake like she's your wife?" He opened his mouth, reaching for his usual script of excuses, but she raised her hand, stopping him. "No. Just tell me the truth for once." Evan's jaw clenched. "Okay, it's complicated." That was the moment Olivia realized he still thought he could negotiate his way out. Still thought she'd crumble, forgive, pretend. But before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. A new message. Same unknown number. This time, it wasn't a photo. It was a video. Sienna's voice, laughing softly, filmed in what looked like a hotel room. "Evan, baby, you worry too much. She'll never find out. And even if she does, you said you were leaving her soon. Right? Before she ruins your credit? We need to secure things before the baby comes." The baby. Olivia couldn't breathe. Her hand shook as she replayed the clip. Sienna's fingers traced Evan's shoulder. Evan, smiling, relaxed, flirting, responded, I know, just give me time. I don't want drama. Olivia's fragile. Noah's, he's sensitive." The video ended. Silence exploded between them. Olivia stared at Evan. "She's pregnant?" Evan looked away, not denying, not confirming, just swallowing like a man cornered. "She said she was," he muttered. "But Liv, listen. Sienna said she might be wrong. She just wants to keep us." "Us?" Olivia whispered. "There's an us?" Evan stepped toward her. "Liv, please. I never meant for it to go this far." She stepped back. "Does Noah know? Does he know you weren't just lying? You were replacing us?" "Liv, don't say it like that." But before he could finish, the front door quietly opened. Noah. Standing there with his backpack, eyes wide, face pale. He had heard everything. He didn't speak. He didn't cry. He simply placed a folded piece of paper on the floor between them, like a child laying down a card in a game he didn't want to play. Olivia recognized the handwriting. Noah's story draft. A new title written in pencil. "The Day My Dad Chose Someone Else." Evan's breath caught. "Noah, buddy, come here. It's not." Noah turned and walked upstairs without a word. Olivia didn't follow. She kept her eyes on Evan, voice cold as winter. "You didn't just break our family," she whispered. "You made our son rewrite his truth." Evan sank into a chair, face gray, hands shaking. And for the first time, Olivia saw fear in him, not fear of losing her, but fear of losing the image he had built. The version of himself he loved more than them. And that fear was only the beginning of what was coming. For 2 days, Olivia moved like a ghost through the house, quiet, careful, emotionally bruised in places no one could see. She cooked for Noah, checked his homework, kept the routine steady for him, but inside her chest lived a storm too big to hold. Evan slept on the couch after their confrontation, pretending to give her space, though he spent most nights whispering frantically on his phone in the backyard, probably talking to Sienna, probably making promises he couldn't keep. But pain has a strange way of sharpening a person. And on the third morning, Olivia woke with something she hadn't felt in years. Resolve. It started simply. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at the dark circles under her eyes, the frizz in her hair, the exhaustion stretching across her face. For the first time, instead of criticizing her reflection, she whispered, "I deserve better than this." Those 5 words lit a spark. After dropping Noah at school, she didn't go straight to work. She drove to a small salon on Maple Avenue, a place she'd passed 100 times but never entered because it felt too fancy. Today, she walked in. The stylist, a warm woman named Grace, looked at her gently and asked what she wanted. Olivia took a breath. A new beginning. She cut her hair shorter than she ever had, colored it warmer, left the salon looking like someone who had stepped out of the version of herself she'd been hiding inside. Next, she walked into Ridgewood Outfitters, a small boutique she always assumed was not for her. But today, she tried on a navy dress that hugged her gently, made her feel taller, stronger. She paired it with clean white sneakers, not flashy, just comfortable and confident. It wasn't vanity. It was reclamation. By noon, she felt different, not healed, not whole, but awake. When she arrived at school, teachers paused mid-conversation. Some blinked, surprised, others smiled. One whispered, "Olivia, you look incredible." For the first time, Olivia believed it. Later that afternoon, while organizing attendance sheets, she overheard 2 staff members whispering about the video of Noah's story. Normally, their words would have cut deep, but today, instead of shrinking, Olivia stood taller. She approached them calmly and said, "If you have questions about my son, ask me directly. Otherwise, please don't speak about him at all." The women flushed, murmured apologies. Olivia walked away with steady steps. That night, she made a decision. Evan was cooking dinner, an attempt at normalcy, but she had no interest in pretending anymore. She asked him to sit at the kitchen table. He obeyed, sensing something different in her posture, her voice, her eyes. "We're done living like this," she said quietly. "I'm filing for separation." Evan blinked, stunned. "Liv, no. You're just upset. We can fix this. I'll talk to Sienna. She cut him off. "I don't care about Sienna. I care about peace. For me, and for Noah." Evan reached out as if to touch her hand, but she pulled away. "You hurt our son," she whispered. "No new promise can change that." He looked at her like he didn't recognize her. And maybe he didn't. The Olivia who begged, who waited, who forgave that version was gone. That night, she slept in her bed alone, not lonely, but relieved. Noah crept in early the next morning and curled beside her. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "We're going to be okay. I promise." For the first time in weeks, Noah believed her. And Olivia believed herself. Because this was no longer the story of a broken wife, this was the rise of a woman who finally chose herself. The day of the Young Voices showcase arrived with the kind of bright, merciless sunshine that made everything feel too exposed. Parents filled the Ridgewood High auditorium, chatting, laughing, sipping coffee from paper cups. But Olivia wasn't there to socialize. She walked in, wearing the navy dress she'd bought during her transformation, her new haircut brushing her shoulders, her posture tall and steady. People who once pitied her now stared with a quiet mixture of awe and uncertainty. Noah stood beside her, clutching his folder of papers. His eyes were nervous, but his shoulders were straighter than usual. Olivia knelt down, smoothing his collar. "You speak your truth," she whispered. "No matter who's in the room." Noah nodded. Then Evan entered. He pushed through the double doors, hair neatly combed, cologne heavy, trying too hard to look like the respectable father he used to pretend to be. The moment parents spotted him, whispers spread like wildfire. Everyone had seen the leaked video of him in the hotel. Everyone had heard Noah's recording. Evan tried to smile, but it faltered under the weight of every stare. And then came the final blow. Sienna Blake walked in behind him. He hadn't known she was coming. She wore a fitted blazer, sunglasses perched atop her head, acting as though she belonged at a children's event. She locked her arm through Evan's, ignoring the shock on his face. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. She smirked. "You said you wanted me to be part of your life." "I didn't mean this," he whispered, horrified. Olivia watched the exchange from across the room, her expression unreadable. She wasn't here to fight Sienna. She was here for justice. The program began. Child after child read stories about dogs, vacations, and magical adventures. Every so often, Evan glanced toward Olivia, silently begging for some sign of forgiveness. She gave him none. Then it was Noah's turn. He walked to the microphone with small, steady steps. Olivia held her breath. Evan visibly tensed. Sienna crossed her arms, bored. Noah unfolded his paper. My story is called "The Night My Dad Lied to Me." The audience fell silent completely, painfully silent. Noah began to read. His voice wavered once, then steadied. He described the dawn light, the perfume, the feeling of waiting alone, the way lies sound when spoken by someone you love. His words were simple, but each one pierced deeper than anything an adult could have written. Parents dabbed tears. Teachers stared at Evan. Olivia closed her eyes, absorbing every syllable. Then came the twist. Noah added, "Last night one Olivia hadn't yet read. But the worst part wasn't that he lied. The worst part was thinking he didn't choose me. And I hope one day he learns how to tell the truth." A single, brutal sentence. The audience turned as one to Evan. He stood frozen, pale, exposed for the first time in his life. Even Sienna stepped away from him, as if his disgrace were contagious. It was the first time Evan realized the power of consequences, not whispered, not hidden, but public. When the applause began soft at first, then rising, it wasn't just for Noah, it was for truth. Noah stepped off the stage. Olivia met him halfway, hugging him tight as the audience watched. And in that moment, Evan saw it clearly, the family he had broken standing stronger without him. And the real revenge wasn't anger, it was dignity. It was Olivia's calm, radiant composure while his world crumbled in front of everyone. When the applause faded and the crowd began to disperse, Olivia and Noah walked out of the auditorium hand in hand. The late afternoon sun cast long, warm shadows on the concrete, as if the world itself were exhaling after the emotional storm inside. Noah's small fingers tightened around hers, not out of fear, but out of relief. For the first time in months, Olivia felt her son's grip not as a plea for safety, but as a declaration that he finally felt safe. Behind them, Evan stumbled out of the building, shoulders slumped, eyes hollow. The humiliation of the showcase clung to him like a heavy coat he couldn't shed. Whispered judgment followed him in waves. Sienna was already gone. She had slipped out a side door the moment the audience turned on him, her heels clicking a cold goodbye. But this wasn't about Evan anymore. This was about the woman who had survived him. When they reached the parking lot, Noah looked up at Olivia. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" Olivia knelt down, holding his face gently. "No, sweetheart, you told the truth. And the truth doesn't break families, lies do." Noah blinked, then let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for weeks. He hugged her tightly, burying his face in her shoulder. Olivia held him as though anchoring them both to a future that no longer felt frightening. Over the next few weeks, something extraordinary happened. Parents approached Olivia at school pickup not with gossip, but with gratitude. Some shared their own stories of betrayal. Others simply said, "Your strength meant something to us." She realized she wasn't alone. So many women had lived versions of her story, silently carrying their dignity like a shield no one bothered to see. The principal requested a meeting, only this time it wasn't about damage control. She wanted to offer Olivia a new role, family liaison coordinator, a position meant to support students dealing with emotional struggles at home. A promotion. Better pay. Real purpose. "You understand these children," the principal said softly. "You understand their parents too." Olivia accepted, not out of pride, but out of clarity. Meanwhile, Evan faced the consequences he had spent years dodging. The PR firm suspended him pending investigation for misuse of company funds. His coworkers avoided him. His friends distanced themselves. Courts ordered therapy and accountability. For the first time, the lies he crafted so effortlessly stopped protecting him. One chilly Saturday morning, he came to pick Noah up for his scheduled visitation. When Olivia opened the door, he looked smaller, no suit, no swagger, just a man finally stripped of illusions. "Liv, I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm really trying to change." Olivia studied him, not with anger, but with a calm wisdom earned through fire. "Then change for your son," she replied. "Don't change for me. My healing isn't your responsibility." And she closed the door gently, not in cruelty, but in closure. Months passed. Life reshaped itself. Olivia and Noah moved into a sunlit apartment near her school. She filled it with houseplants, soft blankets, and new memories untouched by Evan's shadow. Noah flourished, therapy helped, and his writing blossomed into something bright and brilliant. He even wrote a new piece titled "When Grown-Ups Tell the Truth," which his teacher pinned proudly on the hallway wall. One quiet spring evening, Olivia sat on their small balcony, sipping tea while watching Noah draw spaceships on his tablet. A soft breeze lifted her hair. For the first time, she felt not just alive but whole. She looked at Noah and smiled. "See?" she whispered. "We made it." End quote. And she understood something powerful. A woman isn't defined by the man who betrays her, but by the life she builds after he's gone. And Olivia Grant had built a life worth living, one grounded in truth, dignity, and a future brighter than any lie could ever dim. Evan Walker had always believed he was smarter than consequences. Even after the humiliation at the Young Voices showcase, part of him still clung to the version of himself he curated: the charming family man, the admired coworker, the man who could talk his way out of anything. For years, he'd polished that persona so intensely that he began to believe it himself. And when a man believes his own lies, he assumes everyone else will too. 2 days after the event, Evan showed up at the apartment unannounced. Olivia had just finished preparing dinner for Noah's simple chicken and rice when the doorbell rang. She opened the door only a few inches. Evan stood there holding a bouquet of cheap grocery store flowers, his smile strained. "Liv, can we talk?" She didn't move. "You're not supposed to be here without calling." He sighed dramatically, as if she were the one being unreasonable. "Liv, come on. I'm trying. I'm extending an olive branch. Thanks for watching." "You're violating the visitation agreement," she said quietly. His smile cracked. "Are you serious? You're really going to treat me like some stranger, after everything we've been through?" Olivia didn't flinch. "Yes, because that's what boundaries are." Evan pushed the flowers into her hands. She didn't take them, then stepped back, rubbing his face with both hands. "Liv, you're blowing this whole thing out of proportion. It was a mistake, a stupid phase. Sienna manipulated me. You know I'm not like that." There it was. The gaslighting she had drowned in for years. Olivia leaned against the doorframe, her voice calm, almost soft. "Evan, you didn't cheat because someone manipulated you. You cheated because you lied to yourself. And then you lied to us." He blinked, surprised she didn't crumble like before. He tried again. "Come on, Liv. You've always been sensitive. You read too much into things. You know that. It's come." She closed her eyes briefly, remembering the countless times he had said those exact words, how he used them to make her question her instincts, her memory, even her sanity. "No," Olivia replied firmly. "I was never sensitive. I was observant." Evan opened his mouth, but she didn't let him speak. "And you knew I wouldn't fight back. You counted on that." His face hardened. "Don't make me the villain." "You made yourself the villain," she said simply. He looked at the ground. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then a voice behind Olivia. "Mom? Is he leaving?" Noah stood in the hallway, holding his stuffed bear. His eyes were cautious, not frightened, but guarded in a way no child should ever be. Evan's features softened instantly. "Hey buddy, I brought you something." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a toy car, expensive, flashy, gilt-colored. Noah didn't take it. "I don't need things," he said. "I need you to tell the truth." Punctuator. Evan's expression collapsed. "Noah, I'm trying." "Then stop lying," Noah whispered, right before stepping back into the apartment. Olivia felt something shift. Noah wasn't angry, he was exhausted. Evan saw it too. Shame flickered across his face. "But old habits die hard." "Liv," he said quietly, "do you really want our son growing up thinking I'm some kind of monster?" She met his eyes, unblinking. "He'll grow up knowing exactly what you showed him." And doesn't. For the first time, Evan didn't have a comeback. He looked lost, small, stripped of his charm and excuses. Olivia closed the door slowly, not slamming it, not angry, just final. Behind it, Noah wrapped his arms around her waist. "Mom, you were brave." Olivia hugged him tightly, whispering, "No, I'm just finally being honest." What she didn't know was that Evan's unraveling had only begun, and the past he tried to escape was about to catch up with him in ways he couldn't control. In the days that followed Evan's unwanted visit, Olivia discovered something surprising. When a woman finally stops hiding her pain, the world sends allies she never expected. The first appeared in the form of her younger sister, Maya Bennett, who drove 2 hours from Boston the moment she heard fragments of the scandal. Maya was blunt, fearless, the opposite of Olivia in almost every way. She hugged Olivia tightly at the doorway, then stepped back and said, "Point me to the idiot who thought he could break you." Olivia tried to laugh, but the sound trembled. Maya didn't push. She simply placed a warm hand on Olivia's cheek. "You're not alone in this, not anymore." That night, after Noah was asleep, Maya opened her laptop at the kitchen table. "Now," she said, typing rapidly, "let's find out just how deep Evan's lies go." Olivia hesitated. "I don't want revenge." "They sure." Maya shook her head. "This isn't revenge. This is protection." Together, they began quietly gathering digital footprints. Hotel charges Evan claimed were work expenses. Rideshare receipts at suspicious hours. Emails from Sienna sent through his personal account, and for flagged transactions linked to a luxury boutique Olivia had never heard of. Maya's eyes narrowed. "Liv, he didn't just cheat, he siphoned money." Olivia felt her breath catch. "For how long?" "Months," Maya said. "Maybe longer." The realization hit like a cold wave. Evan wasn't careless, he was calculated. Their second unexpected ally came from Ridgewood Elementary itself. The next morning, Mrs. Turner, Noah's homeroom teacher, pulled Olivia aside before classes began. She gently handed her a sealed envelope. "I didn't want to overstep," she whispered, "but I think you should see this. It's the original security recording before the student edited it." Olivia blinked. "Edited?" Mrs. Turner nodded. "The version the students shared only captured Noah reading, but the full clip shows something else." Olivia took the envelope home later that day, hands trembling as she opened it. She loaded the USB into her laptop. The footage showed Noah reading his story, but also caught a moment from the hallway outside the library. Evan. He had come to the school without signing in. He'd argued quietly with Sienna near the corner lockers. They didn't know the camera was pointed toward them. Their gestures were sharp, frantic. Sienna shoved something into Evan's hands, a folder. He shoved it back. She slapped his arm, whispering harshly. The timestamp. The same afternoon, Noah wrote the story. Olivia covered her mouth. Evan had been at the school, near their son, hiding. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was danger. That evening, the final ally arrived, Mark Caldwell, Evan's co-worker and the only one who still had a conscience. He showed up at Olivia's apartment, nervously clutching his briefcase. "I shouldn't be here," he said quietly, "but I can't stay silent." He revealed the truth. Evan hadn't been promoted in months. He wasn't indispensable at work. He was under internal review because Sienna had filed a complaint claiming Evan promised financial support and then emotionally deceived her. "She's setting him up," Mark said, "and if you don't protect yourself, she'll set you up too." "Hey." Olivia felt a chill crawl through her spine. Mark handed her a stack of printed emails, evidence Evan had been misusing company reimbursements. "You need a lawyer," he said softly. Now, when Mark left, Maya looked at Olivia with fierce determination. "Liv, this is bigger than we thought, but you have evidence. You have people on your side." Olivia stared at the documents spread across the table. For the first time, the fear inside her didn't feel paralyzing. It felt like fuel, because now she had truth, cold, undeniable truth, and allies who would help her use it. While Olivia was slowly gathering allies and evidence, Evan Walker's carefully curated professional life was quietly collapsing behind his back. For years, he had walked into the Manhattan PR firm with confidence, polished shoes, crisp shirts, smooth charisma. But charm is a thin shield, and once it cracks, the world sees the truth underneath. His downfall began on a Wednesday morning, harmless at first. Evan arrived late, claiming traffic on the bridge. His manager merely nodded, but the nod felt different, tighter, suspicious. Evan brushed it off. But then, at lunchtime, the first real blow came. He walked into the office kitchen to find two coworkers whispering near the espresso machine. They went silent the moment he stepped in. One gave him a pitiful smile. The other walked out without making eye contact. Evan frowned. "Morning to you too," he muttered, reaching for the coffee pods. Then he saw it. Someone had left a tablet on the counter, and on the screen, paused mid-sentence, was a video. Noah's voice. My dad came home in the morning when he said it was night. Evan froze. Cold swept through him. He looked around. Everyone avoided his gaze. No one spoke. The silence was worse than shouting. It was judgment wrapped in restraint. He slammed the tablet shut and left the kitchen, heart pounding as he marched toward his office. But the cracks continued spreading. In the conference room, his boss, Russell Tate, sat waiting, arms crossed, jaw tight. A printed stack of documents sat in front of him. Evan recognized them instantly. Hotel receipts, Uber charges, reimbursement forms. Evan, Russell said flatly, we need to talk. Evan attempted a casual laugh. Listen, if this is about the expenses, I can explain. You can explain why you charged 2 nights at the Montclair Hotel under client development when those dates match the footage circulating the internet? Evan's stomach dropped. Footage? Russell slid his phone across the table. Your son's story is everywhere, Evan, and someone leaked a video of you in that hotel lobby. This isn't personal, this is reputational. For the company. Evan felt the floor tilt. You can't punish me for my marriage. Russell narrowed his eyes. No, we're punishing you for lying on financial documents, multiple times. You think we don't know what's been going on with you and Sienna Blake? She filed a complaint. Evan. A complaint? He blinked. For what? Russell tapped the file. She claims you made promises of financial support in exchange for personal involvement. Evan paled. That's not true. She's the one who... Russell raised a hand. We're not discussing blame. We're discussing liability. And right now, you're a legal risk. Evan's throat tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying, Russell sighed, you're suspended pending investigation. Suspended. The word hit like a sledgehammer. Evan stumbled out of the conference room. The moment he stepped into the hallway, he heard the whispers. That's him. The kid in the video. Did you see the woman he was with? He always acted so perfect. And 18s. Every eye felt like a knife. By the time he reached the elevator, he felt sick. He pressed the button with trembling fingers. The doors closed. He exhaled shakily. For the first time, Evan wasn't running from consequences. He was trapped inside them. He checked his phone. No messages from Sienna, no calls from friends, just silence. He sank against the elevator wall, suddenly realizing something terrifying. Everyone he had chosen over his family had chosen themselves over him. And while his world was falling apart in a skyscraper full of strangers, Olivia was at home building something new, something steady, something without him. Evan had traded loyalty for validation, and validation had abandoned him when he needed it most. By the time Evan returned to Ridgewood that evening, suspended and humiliated, Olivia had already reached a decision she once believed she'd never be strong enough to make. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't trying to convince him, fix him, or understand him. Pain had burned away the last of her denial, leaving behind something clean, sharp, and unbreakable. She was done. Olivia sat at the kitchen table with a stack of documents, bank statements Maya had uncovered, screenshots of Sienna's messages, and copies of Evan's falsified receipts. She wasn't gathering ammunition to destroy him. She was gathering clarity to protect herself and Noah. When Evan entered, he looked disheveled, defeated, but he forced his shoulders back, as if trying to reclaim the posture of a man in control. Liv, he began shakily, we need to talk. She didn't look up. We do. He sat across from her, rubbing his hands together. I had a terrible day. There's an investigation. I might lose my job. I need your support. Olivia lifted her eyes slowly, calmly. You need my support. After everything you did. Evan flinched. You don't understand. Sienna lied. She set me up. She filed a complaint. And you gave her all the material she needed. Olivia cut in. You met her in hotels. You spent our money on her. You lied to Noah. You lied to me. And now you want sympathy? Her tone wasn't harsh. It was devastatingly honest. Evan ran a frustrated hand through his hair. Liv, I made mistakes, okay? But we've been together 16 years. You don't throw that away because I strayed. Olivia exhaled softly. You didn't stray. You built a second life. He froze. Besides, she continued, sliding a sheet of paper toward him, you didn't just betray me, you endangered our son. The paper showed the time-stamped hallway footage where Evan and Sienna argued at Noah's school. Evan swallowed. Liv, his voice cracked. I didn't want him to see. But he did see, she whispered. And he wrote about it because you made him feel invisible. Evan sank back, as though the weight of her words pressed him into the chair. He opened his mouth to offer another excuse, but Olivia raised a hand. I'm filing for legal separation. The papers will be ready by the end of the week. Evan stared at her, stunned. Liv, don't do this. Don't break our family. She shook her head. You broke it. I'm trying to salvage what's left. He leaned forward desperately. We're not those people, Liv. You're not cold. You don't walk away. She held his gaze. I'm not walking away. I'm walking toward something safer for Noah. And for me? Please, he whispered, voice cracking. I can change. I'll go to therapy. I'll fix everything. Olivia's eyes softened, not with sympathy, but with sorrow for the man he could have been. Evan, she said gently, you want forgiveness without accountability. That isn't change. That's manipulation. The words hit him harder than any scream. Silence filled the room. Finally, Olivia stood, gathering the documents. You'll stay at your mother's until the custody plan is set. I'll text you Noah's schedule. Evan's face crumpled. Liv, please, I still love you. She paused. You love the version of me who stayed quiet, she whispered. But she's gone. And with that, she walked upstairs to check on Noah, closing a chapter she had once clung to, but no longer needed. In the kitchen, Evan remained alone, staring at the doorway where Olivia had disappeared, realizing too late, he hadn't just lost his wife. He had lost the one person who ever saw goodness in him, and believed he could live up to it. And the separation wasn't a threat. It was a line in the sand he could never step back across. The first week after Evan moved out was the hardest for Noah more than anyone. Children rarely break loudly, they unravel in quiet ways. And Noah, with all his gentleness, unraveled in silence. He stopped drawing spaceships, stopped humming during breakfast, stopped asking about Saturday pancakes with Dad. Instead, he moved through the apartment like a shadow of himself. Even the way he walked, careful, hesitant, felt different. Olivia watched him from doorways, from across the dinner table, from the passenger seat during school drop-offs. She knew heartbreak when she saw it, but seeing it inside her child was a pain she wasn't prepared for. One afternoon, she found him sitting on the living room floor with his stuffed bear, Theo, pressed to his chest. His eyes were watery but dry, like he had cried all he could and now had nothing left. Sweetheart? Olivia crouched down. Do you want to talk? Noah shook his head quickly. If I talk, it'll make Dad look bad. Olivia's heart cracked. She gathered him into her arms, feeling his small body tense before slowly melting into her embrace. It's not your job to protect the grown-ups, she whispered into his hair. It's our job to protect you. Noah clung tighter. But Dad always said families stay together. Did I? Did I make you guys fight? Olivia pulled back, cupping his cheeks gently. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Your dad and I made choices. You told the truth. That's bravery, not blame. His lower lip trembled. Then why does it feel like he left because of me? Olivia swallowed hard. He didn't leave because of you. He left because of his choices. Adults make mistakes, big ones, but his mistakes are not yours to carry. For the first time since the showcase, Noah's eyes released fresh tears. He leaned forward, resting his forehead on her shoulder. Olivia rocked him gently, wishing she could transfer her strength to him like warmth. The next day, Olivia took him to the first appointment with Dr. Amber Reed, a child therapist recommended by the school counselor. Dr. Reed's office was warm and filled with colorful cushions, sensory toys, and books arranged on low shelves. Nothing about it felt clinical or intimidating. Noah sat with his hands in his lap, staring at the carpet as though afraid it would swallow him. Dr. Reed smiled softly. Hi, Noah. I'm Amber. You don't need to talk if you don't want to. You can draw, play, or just sit. Whatever feels right. Noah said nothing, but he reached for the coloring pencils on the table. He didn't draw spaceships. He drew a house with 2 doors. One labeled Mom, one labeled Dad. Amber watched gently. That looks like a very brave picture. Noah didn't look up. If there are 2 doors, does that mean I have to choose one? Olivia felt tears sting her eyes, but Amber stepped in before she could speak. No, sweetheart, Amber said softly. You're not choosing sides. You're choosing safety, and both your parents want you to feel safe. Ender. Noah considered this, then nodded barely. By the end of the session, he spoke a few quiet sentences. Small steps, but steps forward. Later that evening, Olivia tucked him into bed. He held her hand longer than usual. "Mom?" he whispered. "Yes? Is it okay if I'm still sad?" Olivia kissed his forehead. "It's more than okay. Sadness means your heart is telling the truth." Noah exhaled, the first peaceful breath she'd heard from him in days. He drifted to sleep with Theo, tucked under his chin. Olivia sat beside him for a long time, watching his chest rise and fall, promising herself silently, "I will rebuild his world piece by piece, even if I have to do it alone." Because a mother's strength isn't loud. It holds the weight of what a child cannot. In the cramped guest room of his mother's house, Evan Walker lay awake, staring at the ceiling as shadows from passing cars rippled across the walls. 4 nights had passed since Olivia told him she was filing for separation, and not a single one had brought him sleep. The man who once believed he could talk his way out of anything now found himself alone with the worst voice possible, his own. The silence was suffocating. His phone buzzed occasionally, but never with the name he hoped for. No Olivia. No Noah. Not even Sienna. She had disappeared the moment the investigation started, leaving behind only digital footprints and legal threats. Evan checked her social media compulsively, only to find she had deleted their messages and blocked him. He had become disposable even to the woman he risked everything for. On the 5th night, his mother, Elaine Walker, knocked gently on the door. She entered, holding a folded blanket and a look Evan hadn't seen since childhood, sadness mixed with disappointment. "Evan," she said softly, "we need to talk." He sat up, rubbing his face. "Mom, I'm not. Don't lie to me," she interrupted gently but firmly. "I saw the video. I saw Noah." Evan's breath caught. Elaine sat beside him on the bed, hands clasped in her lap. "You know," she began, staring at the wall. "Your father used to come home late too. Always smelling like perfume I didn't own." Her voice trembled. "He'd tell me I was imagining things, that I was too emotional, that I should trust him." Evan felt his stomach twist. "I stayed," Elaine whispered. "For you? For the family. And I thought I was doing the right thing." She looked at him, eyes filled with decades of buried pain. "But I taught you something terrible, by accident." He swallowed hard. "Mom, I'm nothing like Dad." Her silence told him he was lying to himself. She placed a hand over his. "You became exactly what he was, just quieter about it." That sentence hit him harder than anything Olivia had ever said. He looked down, shame flooding him. "I didn't mean to hurt them. I didn't know how to be better." Elaine squeezed his hand. "Then learn. Because you're about to lose more than your marriage. You're losing your son's trust. And once a child stops believing in you..." Her voice cracked. "It's almost impossible to earn it back." The words hung heavy in the air. Later that night, unable to bear the suffocation, Evan left the house and drove to the old pier where he used to go with his father as a child. The cold wind whipped against his face. He remembered sitting beside his father on that same pier, watching him drink from a silver flask, listening to him rant about work, only to go home and kiss Evan's mother on the cheek as if nothing were wrong. Evan had once sworn he would never become that man. Yet here he was. He sat on a bench overlooking the water and pulled out a notebook, something Olivia once encouraged him to use to process stress. He flipped it open to a blank page and began writing. Not excuses. Not justifications. Memories. The lies he learned from his father. The lies he taught himself. The lies he fed Olivia. The lies he placed on Noah's small shoulders. He wrote until his hands shook. When he finished, he titled the page, "Why Grandpa Lied, Why I Lied, and Why I Have to Stop." It wasn't redemption, but it was the first honest thing he had written in years. As he stared at the trembling handwriting, a realization settled over him. He couldn't undo the damage, but he could choose what kind of man he became from this moment forward. And for the first time, Evan understood. His greatest battle wasn't against Olivia's separation. It was against the man he had spent his whole life becoming. The first custody mediation took place on a cold Monday morning inside a beige government building that smelled faintly of old carpet and burnt coffee. Nothing about it felt dramatic or cinematic. And yet, for Olivia, it was the most emotionally charged room she had ever stepped into. This wasn't divorce court, not yet, but it was the room where the foundation of Noah's future would be decided. Olivia arrived early. She wore a soft gray sweater, minimal makeup, and her hair pulled back neatly, calm, composed, steady. She carried a folder filled with evidence Maya had helped compile, not out of spite but necessity. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were clear. Evan arrived 10 minutes late. He wore a wrinkled button-down, his posture hunched, every step a mixture of shame and desperation. When he saw Olivia across the table, he opened his mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to plead, but she looked away. Today wasn't about their marriage. Today was about Noah. The mediator entered. Miss Harper, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and kind but firm eyes. She sat down, folded her hands, and began in a calm voice that cut through the tension like warm water through ice. "We are here," she said, "to determine a custody plan that prioritizes your child's emotional safety. This is not about punishing either of you. It's about protecting Noah." Olivia nodded. Evan swallowed hard. Miss Harper looked at Evan first. "Mr. Walker, before we discuss parenting time, you need to respond to certain concerns." End quote, end quote. To Data's fashion, end quote. She slid forward a packet of documents. Hotel charges, ride receipts, the complaint from the PR firm. Evan's shoulders slumped deeper. "Do you contest any of this?" she asked. Evan hesitated. For a moment, Olivia saw him default to his old habit, lying. His mouth twitched like he was reaching for an excuse. But then something shifted in his eyes. Exhaustion. Maybe honesty? "No," he whispered. "I don't contest anything. It's all true." "Great." Olivia felt her breath catch, not because she wanted to hear it, but because she never had before. Miss Harper continued, "Mr. Walker, your actions created instability for your child. Entering the school secretly, arguing with a third party in the hallway, this was an unsafe situation." Evan's voice cracked. I know. I'm trying to fix things." "Trying isn't enough," Miss Harper said gently. "Consistency is." She turned toward Olivia. "Mrs. Grant, you've provided documentation that demonstrates you've maintained stable routines, therapy support, and a safe environment for Noah. Do you intend to seek primary custody?" Olivia took a slow breath. "Yes, for now. Until Evan is stable." Evan's eyes widened. "Olivia, please, he's my son too." "Then act like a father," she said quietly. He flinched. Miss Harper outlined the proposed arrangement. Olivia would have primary physical custody. Evan would have supervised visitation for 8 weeks. He would attend therapy sessions with a licensed counselor specializing in compulsive lying and emotional regulation. All communication between Evan and Olivia would be through a co-parenting app to avoid manipulation or conflict. Any violation would pause his visitation rights. Evan stared at the table, tears forming. "I'll do it. Whatever it takes." Des. Olivia believed him not because the words were convincing, but because, for the first time, he wasn't saying them to save the marriage. He was saying them to save himself as a father. When the session ended, Evan walked out first. Olivia gathered her papers slowly, breathing deeply. Miss Harper touched her arm gently. "You're very strong," she said. Olivia shook her head softly. "No, I'm just protecting my son." She stepped outside into the crisp air. For the first time in months, she felt something close to relief, not happiness, not triumph, but clarity. And clarity was the first step toward freedom. The night of the Young Authors Showcase arrived with a strange mix of nerves and electricity in the air. Ridgewood High's auditorium glowed with soft stage lights, colorful student artwork taped along the walls, and rows of folding chairs filling quickly with parents clutching programs and iPhones. It should have been an ordinary school event, a celebration of creativity and childhood imagination. But tonight, it felt like a stage built for truth. Olivia and Noah arrived early. Noah wore a clean button-down shirt, his hair combed neatly, his fingers clenched around the folder that held his newest draft. Olivia squeezed his shoulder gently. "You don't have to be brave," she whispered. "You just have to be honest. That's enough." Noah nodded. Across the room, Evan walked in alone. He looked smaller than he ever had in Noah's eyes. The past few weeks had aged him, unshaven, paler, shoulders hunched as though carrying invisible weight. Parents glanced at him, whispers slithering through the crowd. Evan felt everyone. He found his seat near the back, far from Olivia and Noah. Court orders required him to keep distance outside supervised visits. He obeyed tonight. He had to. As the lights dimmed, children began taking turns on stage. Some read stories about dinosaurs or summer vacations. The audience chuckled, applauded, filmed. But everyone knew what they were waiting for. Noah's name was printed near the end of the program. His story had gone viral inside the district. Even those who pretended not to gossip knew why the auditorium felt especially charged tonight. Backstage, Noah waited, tapping his foot anxiously. Olivia knelt beside him. "Remember," she murmured, "your story is yours. No one can take your truth from you." When his name was finally announced, "Next, we have Noah Grant reading When My Heart Learned the Truth." The room fell into a hush, so complete it felt like even the walls leaned in to listen. Noah stepped onto the stage. He looked so small under the spotlight, yet so brave. He unfolded his paper with slightly trembling fingers and took a steadying breath. "My story," he began, "used to be called The Night My Dad Lied to Me, but I changed it, because lies weren't the end of my story." Soft murmurs rippled through the parents. Noah continued, "I used to think I did something wrong, that if I was better, or quieter, or braver, my dad wouldn't lie. But Dr. Reed told me something important. Grown-ups lie because they're scared of the truth, not because kids do anything wrong." Evan blinked rapidly, his eyes reddening. Noah read on. "I still love my dad. But love doesn't mean pretending. Love means hoping someone becomes better. And loving my mom means telling the truth so she could stop being sad alone." Olivia covered her mouth, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Then Noah looked directly at the front row, straight at Olivia. "When grown-ups tell the truth, kids feel safe. And now, I finally feel safe." A long, breathless pause filled the room. Then applause erupted, not polite claps, but an emotional wave that rolled through the auditorium. Parents stood. Teachers wiped their eyes. It wasn't just a reaction to a child's writing, it was a reaction to courage. Noah stepped off stage, and Olivia met him halfway, kneeling to hug him tightly. She whispered, "You healed us tonight. You don't even know how much." In the back row, Evan stood slowly, his heart breaking open, not from humiliation this time, but from the realization that his son had surpassed him in honesty, in bravery, in wisdom. For the first time, Evan didn't think about defending himself. He thought about becoming the man Noah deserved. And in that auditorium, under warm lights and trembling applause, truth finally won. In the quiet days following Young Authors Night, something shifted in the Grant household. Not suddenly, not magically, but in small, steady ways that felt like the first warm days of spring after a brutal winter. Olivia no longer walked around with the heavy tension of anticipating Evan's lies. Noah slept more soundly, his nightmares slowly fading, and the apartment, small but sunlit, felt peaceful in a way their old house never truly had. But healing required structure, and structure meant facing the future with clear boundaries. The co-parenting mediator scheduled a follow-up meeting. This time, Olivia wasn't nervous. She walked in with her shoulders straight, carrying a notebook filled with questions she had prepared. Confidence didn't feel foreign anymore. It felt earned. Evan arrived early for once. He wore a clean shirt, had shaved, and carried himself with quiet humility. He didn't try to charm the receptionist. He didn't make excuses. He simply waited, hands clasped, as if holding on to the last pieces of the man he wanted to become. When Olivia sat across from him, he met her eyes but didn't try to read forgiveness in them. He seemed to understand she wasn't there for reconciliation. She was there for responsibility. Miss Harper, the mediator, smiled warmly as she joined them. "Today," she said, "we focus on building stability. No illusions, no promises that won't be kept, just structure." Evan nodded. Olivia did too. Miss Harper turned to Evan first. "Mr. Walker, you've attended the required therapy sessions?" "Yes," Evan said softly, "and I'm continuing. Not for the court, for myself." Olivia was surprised, not convinced, but surprised. Miss Harper continued, "And the supervised visits with Noah?" Evan exhaled. "They've been painful. But good. He doesn't trust me yet. I know I have to earn that." Olivia glanced down. This, too, surprised her, not because she believed everything he said, but because for once, he wasn't minimizing Noah's feelings. Then, it was Olivia's turn. "Mrs. Grant," Miss Harper said, What do you need going forward? Olivia took a breath and opened her notebook. Predictability, she began. No last-minute changes, no surprise appearances, no emotional pressure on Noah to love either of us. And absolutely no contact between Evan and her. Evan swallowed hard. Agreed. And, Olivia added, I want communication only through the co-parenting app. No middle-of-the-night texts, no guilt-tripping, no nostalgia. Evan nodded again, slower this time. I understand. Miss Harper's eyes softened. These boundaries aren't punishments, they're protection, for Noah and for both of you. As the meeting progressed, something unexpected happened. Cooperation. Not warmth, not forgiveness, but a mutual understanding that the old patterns had no place in this phase of their lives. Outside, after the session ended, Evan hesitated before speaking. Liv, he said quietly, thank you. For not shutting me out completely. Olivia didn't soften. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Noah. He nodded, accepting it. But, she added, I appreciate the effort you're making. If it's real, keep going. If it's performative, Noah will know. He sees everything. Evan's expression tightened, but not in offense. In acceptance. I know, he whispered. That's what scares me the most. Olivia didn't respond. She simply offered a small, steady nod, a signal that she was open to improvement, not reconciliation. Weeks passed. Evan kept his appointments. He arrived on time to supervised visits. He didn't try to impress Noah with gifts or excuses. He asked questions. He listened. Slowly, carefully, the air between father and son changed. No miracles. No sudden reunion. Just slow rebuilding. One Sunday evening, after a quiet supervised visit at the park, Noah whispered to Olivia, Mom, I think Dad is trying. Really trying. Olivia looked at her son's hopeful eyes and nodded gently. Then we'll let him try. Safely. She watched Evan from a distance, hands in pockets, shoulders humbled, walking to his car alone. And for the first time, she didn't feel anger. She felt closure. There were no old illusions left to cling to, only new agreements, grounded in truth, built for a future where Noah's heart came first. Spring arrived slowly in Ridgewood, first as a shy, warm breeze through half-open windows, then as sunlight stretching longer across the apartment floors where Olivia and Noah now lived. Their new home wasn't large, but it was theirs. Bright, uncluttered, peaceful, a place with no secrets, no lies lingering in hallways, no tension waiting behind closed doors. Olivia decorated with soft colors, shelves of children's books, and a small plant Noah insisted on naming Captain Leaf. One quiet Saturday morning, Noah sat at the round kitchen table, tapping a pencil against a fresh sheet of paper. Olivia poured herself tea and watched him from the counter. You look very focused, she said softly. I'm writing something, he replied without looking up. What kind of something? He paused, then smiled a shy smile. A new story. Olivia's heart warmed. Can I see it? Not yet, he murmured. It's not finished. A few minutes later, he carried his paper to the balcony, sat cross-legged under the gentle sun, and began writing again. Olivia stood in the doorway, watching him, this small boy who had survived more truth than most adults could bear, now creating something hopeful with his own hands. Later that afternoon, Evan arrived for a supervised visit. He looked different, not polished, not broken, but steady. His eyes had softened, the sharp edges of denial worn down by effort and humility. He held no gifts, no excuses, just a quiet respect. Hi, Noah, he greeted gently. Noah nodded. Hi, Dad. They walked to the park together. Olivia followed behind with the supervisor, but she let distance grow between them, giving father and son a little more space. She wasn't guarding herself anymore. She was guarding Noah's healing, carefully, but without fear. On a bench beneath the budding trees, Evan cleared his throat. I read your story again. The first one. Noah didn't speak. Evan continued, voice shaky but honest. It hurt, but I needed it to hurt. It made me see how much I broke. He looked at his hands. I want to fix what I can, even if it takes a long time. Noah finally met his father's eyes. Then don't lie anymore. Well of Mistress. I won't, Evan whispered. Not to anyone, especially not to you. Something fragile but real passed between them, trust, not restored, but beginning. When they returned to the apartment, Noah rushed to his room. Evan lingered at the door, unsure whether to leave or speak. "Olivia," he began, "I know we won't go back, and I'm not asking for that, but thank you for not shutting me out of his life." Olivia nodded gently. "Do the work, Evan. Not for me, for him." With was not of their books, he swallowed, then left quietly. No drama, no bitterness, just acceptance. That evening, Noah appeared in the living room holding a paper decorated with a hand-drawn sun in the corner. "Mom," he said softly, "I want to read it to you." She sat on the couch as he climbed beside her. He unfolded the paper and began. "My story is called When Grown-Ups Tell the Truth. It's about how scary things can get better when people stop hiding. It's about how moms can be strong and dads can learn. It's about how telling the truth makes a home feel safe again. And it's about me, because I'm not scared anymore." Olivia's eyes filled with tears, happy ones, relieved ones. She pulled Noah close, her heart overflowing with pride and gratitude. "You wrote something beautiful," she whispered. "You wrote our new beginning." Outside, the trees swayed gently, sunlight drifting across their small apartment, their safe home. No illusions, no lies. Just truth, healing, and the quiet strength of a rebuilt life. Asterisk, asterisk, and Olivia finally understood. The real victory wasn't punishing the man who hurt her. It was becoming the woman who no longer needed him. Well, that's the end of the story. And if you're still here, my wonderful friend, it means something inside this journey touched your heart in a real way. Maybe you saw yourself in Olivia. Maybe you saw someone you love in Noah. Or maybe you simply needed a reminder that truth, even when painful, is always the beginning of healing. The ancient Stoics said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And that's exactly what Olivia discovered. Her heartbreak didn't end her life, it redirected it. It taught her strength she didn't know she had, and it taught her son that honesty is the foundation of safety. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is endurable, then endure it. If it is not, then stop complaining and take action." Olivia did both. She endured, and then she acted. And maybe that's your message today too. You deserve peace. You deserve a life where truth is normal, not a luxury. And you deserve to choose yourself without apologizing. If this story touched you, inspired you, or made you feel less alone, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more healing stories to life. And remember, you're stronger than the storm you survived.